few weeks ago at Untitled Basement, there was a commemorative concert almost a decade later. What have we learned? Because this is still everyone's reality. The little drops make up the whole ocean. And sometimes we get told about the ocean without being told about the drops that make up the ocean.
Sure.
I pushed really hard because I knew that if I want to be a doctor, I think I glamorized it in my head because it's put on such a pedestal, medicine.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Khensani and I bring you faith, education, wisdom, and lifestyle content. I have seen you guys have engaged so much with Nkgopotse's video. Thank you so much. And today I am sitting with Amma Sarfo-Adomah. Today we are really focused on the legal journey, and I will give a brief introduction of Amma, who is an admitted attorney who obtained her LLB degree from Wits University cum laude. Amma also holds an LLM degree from UCT. Amma previously worked as a law researcher with the Democratic Governance and Rights Unit, and she completed her articles at a big law firm where she was retained as an associate in the Dispute Resolution Department. Thereafter, she clerked at the Constitutional Court and later returned to practice at this big law firm in the Public Law Department. Welcome, Amma.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, for hosting me.
Yes, it's actually not the first time that we meet.
Yes.
You were at the RW Mentorship Day. Thank you for that.
That was fun. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Amazing. So please tell us a bit about yourself. Where you were born, where you were raised, what does Amma like? Who is she outside of work?
All the things.
Yes, all the nice things.
All the things. So Amma is, I don't know if I should talk about myself in the third or first person. Talk about myself as me. I am, yes. I always tell people I'm a third culture kid. And that's because my parents are Ghanaian immigrants. And they came to South Africa in about 1989, 1990, around there. And I was actually born in the Eastern Cape. Wow. Yeah, but we moved up to Johannesburg, I think when I was still young, under the age of 3. And the reason I say I'm a third culture kid is when I go home to like a little Ghana. But at the same time, I live in South Africa. So the way I view the world is you view the world in a very nuanced way. And I realized that as a child, the questions I had about the world, sometimes I felt a little bit of an oddball, like, oh, can I ask this question? Or how does this affect this? Or how does that affect that? Or, I'm not, like this. So how does this respond to me? How should I respond to certain situations? And where do I fit? Sure. So it took me, I think, until university to feel comfortable with the identity that I have, that I'm never going to be one of anything. I don't have the comfort of having a strong national identity. And I say that quite carefully, in the sense that I can't say that I belong to one nation completely. I love both. And it's because of my upbringing. And I think I like to think of myself almost as just a Pan-African. Like I love I can't divorce myself from being part of, like, being a Ghanaian child growing up in South Africa. I can't do that. Even when I go and visit my family back in Ghana, I'm like, no, I'm so South African about so many things. So I don't have, it's a privilege to just have one national identity, and it's a beautiful thing. And that's a privilege that I don't think I don't have it, to just have one national identity, but it's also been, I've had to make privileges of it for myself. And you create your identity and you find ways where you completely fit into spaces, and then you find spaces where you're not completely ever going to fit in, and that then you make peace with it. So yeah, that's kind of that's like my starting point. That is where I view the world from that basis.
Okay.
And it also makes me comfortable, I guess, with moving in and out of spaces because, you just don't have, I can't attach myself to too many things, which is a difficult thing to process as a child growing up. But the older you get, you realize you can't attach yourself to things. So, yeah.
So you're hyphenated.
Yeah, I'm hyphenated.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's beautiful, actually. I
Thank
believe
you.
it's beautiful. I think it's lovely to be so, like you said, to view the world in a more nuanced manner and to see that. I think that enables you to see people as people, firstly.
Yeah, definitely.
If you only just one thing, you're not able to understand, or sort you are able to understand if you're willing to understand, but you do not grow up having that perspective that I can be this and I can be that. And I'm thinking of how you can say I have one nationality, I'm South African, right? Great. But I can go now and marry a Zulu man, but I'm Tsonga.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That changes.
Everything.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm now hyphenated. My children are hyphenated.
Yeah.
They're no longer just Tsonga.
Yeah.
They are Tsonga, Zulu, Zulu Tsonga.
Exactly.
Right? My mom was Tsonga, my dad is Zulu. Or if you marry into a multi-racial family, it changes completely. Your children become that.
Exactly.
Their skin actually becomes nuanced in a sense, right? Because they cannot, what do they identify as black or as white?
Yeah, it changes. And just having that perspective, like you said, that you get to meet people as people and you allow people to be who they want to be as opposed to who you want them to be.
Exactly.
Because, you just realize that you can't put something completely on someone. They're allowed to not be completely one thing for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So good. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's go into your academic journey. What does it take to graduate cum laude?
Persistence and hard work.
Persistence.
Yeah, I read a lot. I think one thing I appreciate about law is that you just have to love to read. If you don't like reading, just don't do law. I think TV sometimes glamorizes it a lot and makes you think that you're just going to be in front of people talking and making these big claims, and you have these programs where someone walks in with a piece of paper and just throws it on a desk and says, "Here you go." And I'm like, no, that's not it. It's a lot of reading, and it's reading 5, 10 different things and trying to make it come together. Like, you can't just read something in isolation. You must read it in the context of so many other things because you're dealing with society. So graduating cum laude was a tough journey. I think, like we were saying, we were at Wits this whole time together.
Yeah.
But we didn't know each other because my goal was go to class, take your notes, go home, read, and stay healthy as a human being. So I just put in a lot of work. I don't think it's the best thing to do all the time. I think have spaces. I think I didn't invest enough in community when I was at Wits. I think a lot of the time, especially when you're growing up, community is kind of given to you through school environments. You put in the same class for 5 years at a time. You're put in activities. So you make friends, you go, along the way, and proximity does a lot of that work for you. Whereas at Wits, you had that at the same time. In university, you do have that, but you also get to go home after your lecture and just mice people. So I think I had community, but I didn't invest too much into it. And that's something that going back, I would redo, or, I would focus a little bit more on maintaining strong relationships from university. But it's just hard work and reading and accepting that just because you like to read or you think you know something, it's law. Everything is kind of arguable, even if things are clear, that clarity can still be arguable to an extent. So allow yourself to always be a beginner with somebody else's point of view. When you're reading, even if it seems clear, just ask yourself, so what or what if? And I think that'll push your mind to think differently
Okay.
about the law and the context and just even cases. It's just, yeah. So, but read, do your work. And yeah, that's what I would say.
Right. So it's read. I think you mentioned persistence.
Yeah.
And Justice Katenji Brown also mentioned something like that when she was at law school, how she was at a point where she was just drained and exhausted. And then she thinks she heard somebody pass through her and said, persist. No, the word was actually persevere.
Yeah.
Right? She heard somebody say persevere.
Yeah.
And that has also come to me now after reading the book. When I think about my journey as actually post law school, is the word persevere, persevere, because it's so easy to give up.
Yeah, it is. I think people think, oh, you guys are just reading. What's so difficult?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So people say no one's dying. Like, you're not rushing to the hospital. And I'm like, yeah, but law is challenging. Like, don't mistake it. Law is challenging. It's difficult.
Law is difficult.
And I think people I don't know why it's not taken seriously.
No, law is difficult.
It's really difficult.
Practicing law is even more difficult.
Yeah, it's really difficult. And I think it takes a lot from you, especially when you want to do it at a higher level. It takes a lot from you. You have to persevere. You have to push through. There are things that you just don't know, and accepting that you are a beginner and you don't know anything and that happens often.
Yeah.
As much as you know the skill of reading and writing and thinking differently about many things. But there are so many things that you're going to find out for the first time as a lawyer, and it's challenging, and you have to deliver, and you have to bring results. And I think persevering in law school when you don't understand a concept, or this case makes no sense to you, or, I mean, admin law, everyone just struggled.
Yeah.
Admin law is tough. It's nitty, it's fine. Specialized principles of law, it's difficult. So if you can't persevere through law school, like you need to develop that. And I remember saying, like, even if I don't like this course, I'm gonna teach myself to love this thing just to get through it. Because you do need that when you're sitting late at night in practice and you're sitting with an act that you just don't understand and you have to do all this extra reading on it. You have to persevere. It's a different kind of perseverance because no one's also holding your hand, right? You do have team members, and thank goodness, in all the contexts that I've been in, I've been blessed with incredible team members. But, you're not always in the same room together, and you're not always thinking the same thought about the very same issues. So you have to push, you have to learn that thing.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like it, you have to teach yourself to love it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sure. And then what do you think are some of the challenges that stifle academic excellence? Like what? What do you think influences somebody to not be doing well? I mean, I understand that you can put in the hard work and you can read, but what do you think would contribute towards a student's
I think many factors go into it. Not everyone comes from the same background. I was very blessed. I am very blessed that my parents are incredibly supportive. And I come from a family where my mother always used to tell me, eat your books from when I was young. Just eat your books, please. So I come from a family that supports that encourages that. Not everyone comes from that same background. Not everyone has the same resources. So I was able to just focus on my books because that's what my parents allowed.
They build the kind of culture.
100%. And I had the people around me who had that same mindset. Not everyone has that support. Not everyone has the resources to get through university. Like I think my last 2 years of university was fees must fall. I can't believe it's 10 years ago now, but we marched to the union buildings. We were there. It's not a joke what, everyone's going through. It's intense. I think a few weeks ago at Untitled Basement, there was a commemorative concert almost a decade later, what have we learned? Because this is still everyone's reality 10 years later. And I think, sure, I was very blessed. And I think just from the context of where my parents came from, my parents didn't come from wealth. They didn't come from, they didn't come from people who were always pushing them on, and they persevered. And I mean, they're raising children in a different country completely. So they understood it, but not everyone gets that. Not everyone gets that support. And I think to be cognizant of that and really just, I have an admiration for people who do it without a lot of support, resources, relationally. It's unfair, the cards that people get dealt all the time. And some people are blessed with their cards and some people aren't blessed with the cards that they play. And I think that's why community does become really important, because you get to then plug into community that can support you along the way. Another thing is focus. I think a lot of people, when you're on your own in university, you sometimes might lose focus.
So good. That's also a good one.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's not, maybe I'm being a little bit controversial, but it's not, not everyone is as committed to the goal of academic excellence. Some people just want to get through. And I'm not, that it doesn't have to come from any ungratefulness. Maybe what they're pursuing academically isn't actually what they want. They just don't know it yet. Or, they just might be having other issues. I think the world we're growing up in is so different to the world our parents grew up in. So many things have affected our focus, social media, the way we move through life, the issues that we have to face, AI, all of it. We aren't living in the same world. So many things take our natural focus away from just pursuing excellence or being disciplined. I mean, so many of us struggle with focus in general. Good. So that's something that, I mean, you have all these focus apps now. Every time you go onto social media, it's use this to focus, listen to this music to focus. And I think, there's a problem where we can't focus.
We can't focus on the goal.
Yeah.
We can't focus on the bigger goal, and we can't focus in the moment as well. Instant gratification, Instagram. That's one thing, you think.
And LinkedIn now,
right? Yeah, varsity, you're looking at 4 years of doing this, and then I must still do training for another 2 years. Yeah. Then I'm not even guaranteed to be wealthy immediately, So you think, why don't I just take the path and focus on something else, not academic excellence, focus on being a content creator, for example. And now you're juggling academics and being a content creator or influencer. Because you're trying to get your rewards too early in a season where you should be planting.
It could be that. But it also could, I think about it a little bit differently. I respect the people who are hustling and doing that, because it shows that you can focus on multiple things at the same time. But I think that with, like you said, there is an instant gratification issue. And this, particularly law, there is nothing instantly gratifying about this journey. And to have, like you said, you're doing something in the now for so far in the future. When we go to university, how old are we? We're 19. We can't think beyond 4 or 5 years. We haven't been alive for, even 2 full decades by the time we go to university. So how are we going to even, sometimes you'll go to an interview and they'll say, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And you're like, I've been on earth for 2 decades. 10 years ago, I was a child. And now you want me to see myself in 10 years. Some people have no problem with that. Some people need a little bit of help forming that picture for themselves. And then help also implementing the baby steps, like that little drop, 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, the little drops make up the whole ocean. And sometimes we get told about the ocean without being told about the drops that make up the ocean.
Sure.
And it's that, like you said, it's a double focus. And then also being able to, in the moment, create systems for yourself. And like you said, people can be content creators. Find ways to meet those needs for yourself, but also know that focus that none of that can take from your ultimate goal. And I also think falling out in and out of love with things is something that happens when you're in university or when you're pursuing academics at any stage. It's difficult. You get tired. You just sometimes aren't that motivated, and you have to dig down deep, like I said, persevere and find it, or find ways outside, elsewhere, where you can invigorate yourself. And yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what do you think was your motivation?
My motivation, to be honest, I don't know if this was a trick from God or not. I wanted to study medicine, actually, after you leaving high school. But I only wanted to study it because that's all I knew in my family, in my household, our greater community, and like family, friends. Everyone was a doctor. Because I think that's like you must either be a doctor or an engineer. Law wasn't a big thing in my house. I mean, I didn't know any lawyers actually around me at all. So for me, I was like, I didn't get into medicine.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, how do I get into medicine from law school? Because I actually wanted to take a gap year because I just knew that I didn't know what I wanted to do. And my dad said, I don't understand what a gap year is. I'm an old Ghanaian man. You're going to go to school.
Yeah.
And so I said, if I have to go to school for 1 extra year, I need to choose something. I said, where do I get to read, write, and think?
Okay.
I said, law. So I just chose law. And then what motivated me was the fact that, I can get into medicine from law. And I was going to do GEMP, the whole thing, after my law degree. And so after I graduated, I applied for GEMP, I got in, and I sat in one lecture, I think for physics or something. And I was like, I don't care. I really don't care about this. Yeah. I want to go back. I want to read, write, and think. And then I just decided I'm going to do law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I pushed really hard because I knew that if I want to be a doctor, I think I glamorized it in my head because it's put on such a pedestal, medicine. I thought that I had to be the smartest person before I became a doctor. And then I realized, why am I knocking law? Because law is really challenging. It's difficult. There's a reason that, people stay up all night reading things over and over again,
Yeah.
I'm already doing something really difficult, challenging and noble. So why am I pushing myself? So yeah, it was kind of a trick in that way, because my whole concept of myself was I must help people. And I thought the only way to help people was medicine. Can you imagine?
Yeah. So now let's get to your paper.
Okay.
Is there a link now?
Yes, that is the link.
To your desire in medicine, and then your law degree, to then write a paper that I guess explores, sorry, let me just read so I don't say this incorrectly, that explores reforms to address the high cost of malpractice litigation in South Africa. Because now I'm like, okay, then you go and write a paper on medicine, which is essentially malpractice medicine. And then now you link it together with your one. You see, God comes through.
God really does come through. And I realized, so that was, like I said, I'm surrounded by so many doctors. I'm like, why do I care so much about healthcare? And I can be quite dramatic about something. So I'm like, I must do something with medicine. And in my mind, I'm like, it was my dissertation actually in uni, because I did a research component instead of taking 2 extra subjects. And that was my topic. So I was like, if I have a paper on this and I'll get into medicine. And then I realized I don't have to become a doctor to have a view on, healthcare and how people get to practice. So that was the link. And again, I loved medicine and I love law because of the ability to help people. And it's just a social development, that you're able to, you're able to be a part of as either a lawyer or a doctor. And the crux of the paper, the lens through which I viewed the issues was through the right to healthcare, through the Constitution. And that was, I wanted to find a link, and I think I needed to find a big principle. I think that's another way of another way I get through life is to find a big principle, and then just attach myself to it and just run after it. So I found a legal principle that I could marry this area of my life to, and I feel like it was a way to pay homage to my family and like our extended families who used medicine to like improve their lives and healthcare to improve their lives. My mom trained as a nurse, my dad's a gynecologist. So yeah, these are the things.
So you see, God marries things
Yeah,
together.
and now I'm okay with it. I'm like, right, I've given you something. I'm good.
Yes, sure. Your thesis is a contribution to public law.
Yes.
Do you think it played it played a role in your decision to become a clerk at the Constitutional Court?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Definitely. So as I don't think a lot of, maybe it's just me, maybe I wasn't aware of it. I don't know if a lot of people know about the clerkship program at the court. So when I was finishing varsity, I didn't know about the program. When I did my thesis, while I was there, I was a student researcher with the DGRU. And they were busy telling us about different clerkship programs. And I thought, wait, hold on, what? I can do more of this. So I'd actually applied after I did after I finished my thesis in about 2021. And I was just applying for jobs, like, what do I do? So yeah, I made my application. I didn't get a phone call or whatever, and I was so devastated, like, oh, I can't do this. And then I just did my articles. And then a friend of mine said, I really think you should apply to the court. And I said, I've already applied. I don't think I'll get in. She said, there's no way you're not going to get in after, doing the kind of work we've been doing and after having your thesis and, after researching at the DGRE, there's no way you're not going to get it. Just apply, just try. And then I did. And there are no words for that experience. I think it's one of the best experiences of my life. And my friend told me, she was just like, it's going to be the best thing you do. And you're just going to see that people think so differently. Just please do it. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and my next question would be, how was your experience there?
It was incredible. I loved it. I have no words for it. It was just, the people you meet also are from different walks of life. So if you go into, your standard practice situation, you're meeting all your corporate girlies and your corporate bros, and, that's what you know. And then you engage with counsel along the way, but that's the world you're living in. And then when you go to the court, you're meeting your corporate people, and then you're meeting your NGO public interest lawyers, you're meeting just researchers, you're meeting people straight from varsity, and there's no hierarchy amongst like the clerks. You're all supposed to learn together, and you hear everyone's viewpoint. And I found it to be a healthy space to communicate different views on very serious issues, and very serious matters that come before the judges. So it was incredible. I would encourage every law student to apply to the court. Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. Yeah. Apply to the court, okay?
I had to say apply. Yeah.
And so I want to know, what do you think makes Amma different? What makes you stand out?
I think I'm tenacious.
Okay.
Like, I don't like letting things die. I want to turn every stone I can turn. Even if something feels ridiculous, even if I can't, figure it out. Or if somebody else is just like, this isn't that deep. I'm just like, no, there's something here. I know it.
Okay.
So I think that's what makes me stand out, is that I even if I don't always express that view, in my brain I'm thinking, have I looked at everything that I can possibly look at? And have I looked at this from every angle I can look at it from? And I think it helps me to be humble when someone has a really good point that I didn't see. Sometimes it's irritating, just like, why didn't I think that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's
Sure.
because there's different ways to see things. And I guess just also just work hard. I think that was just ingrained in me. Just sometimes I take it to the extreme and it's not always the best, but working hard is, yeah, those are the two things that I'd say.
Just wanted to say, when you speak about hard work, in the past week, we were in our prayer group. We read a scripture that speaks about, do you see any skilled or competent persons? They will serve before kings and not before ordinary men.
Sure.
And I'm thinking that do not underestimate or do not even apologize for hard work.
That's true.
Because it is the skilled and competent that stand before kings.
I didn't think about that. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
That's actually,
Yeah.
I need to remember that.
Yeah.
You sent me that verse.
I will. I will. So we explored that, and I was just thinking that when you are starting out, and you're working hard, you don't see how you fit in because you look like you're serving ordinary men.
Yeah.
And the king is always surrounded by advisors, right? So the king doesn't lack advisors.
Yes.
There will be all sorts of advisors. And then there's going to be that one issue that only a competent and truly skilled person can resolve. And he will call his advisors and say, I need this problem to be solved.
Yeah.
And the advisors will be like, this is the solution. And he's like, no, this is not right. Until they say, no, I know somebody. Maybe Amma can do it.
Oh, gosh.
Because she's skilled and competent.
Are you speaking over my life?
I'm speaking, you know? And then that's when the competent person is actually elevated to serve the king.
Yeah.
And we see that also with the life of Joseph, the life of Daniel, the life of...
So interesting that you mentioned those two.
And David,
two. Yeah.
Right? How David was not necessarily a soldier, right? So he was not there with the king when other people were trained to advise the king and to fight for the king. He wasn't, but he was skilled. He was the competent one, elevated,
the shepherd boy
at the right time. Same thing with Daniel, elevated at a time when everyone else who surrounded the king could not resolve an issue. Same thing with Joseph, elevated at the time that everybody else that surrounded the king could not resolve an economic crisis that was coming because of the dream.
It's interesting that you say that. I always look into the story of Joseph and Daniel and Ruth. I love Ruth. Because they grew up in spaces that, weren't theirs. They grew up in, they were serving in spaces that weren't their home, using that term loosely.
They were in exile.
They were exiled, they weren't, and I always think about, this sometimes gets a bit tough, feeling like, where do you fit in? How do you add value?
Sure.
And the verse that came to mind this morning as I was thinking about it was, you're supposed to seek the welfare of the city that you're in.
Amen.
And that, for me, that keeps me going always, like, seek the welfare. And I think that's where that element of hard work and tenacity comes in, is like, am I actually adding to the welfare of the place that I'm in?
Amen. That's so good.
Regardless of, what, because different people apply nationality to me differently. Like, someone will say, you're South African, or you're this, you're that. It's just how life happens. It's society and people's views. And so I'm just like, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to perform. And sometimes you get tired because you're just a human being. And sometimes it's just like this, you get the feedback like, no, I know you can do better. And that can be exhausting as well. But hard work.
By the way, I think it's great to study both Joseph and Daniel, like you said, because they were exiled.
Yeah.
So they felt almost something like you probably experienced.
Yeah.
But at the right time, remember, they get elevated at the right time.
Yeah.
That there are people who come up with stuff and they cannot fault you in anything else except what? Except maybe your beliefs.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And the
Yeah.
point is to be above reproach, to work so hard that they couldn't find anything. It was not his work. It was not his integrity.
Yeah.
It was nothing else. So they had to
Yeah.
make up stuff.
Yeah.
And the king was like, no ways. This is
Not Daniel.
it. You can make up stuff
Yeah.
and God will fight for him. But clearly there's nothing wrong with this person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good
Powerful.
perspective. Study that book and just think about his mindset. I'm always interested about his mind at the time, at the height of the Babylonian Empire, to have still been faithful to God
Yeah, and to be devoted.
and to serve government.
He was quite devoted.
Yeah. And so for
Deeply
administrations, not one, you served
Yeah.
all four. What kind of a hardworking person are you? Sure.
Well,
What?
go back and read Daniel.
I'm so interested. I want to know his mindset. I want to know what were they thinking? How are they navigating difference? How are they navigating political tensions?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm by no means Daniel, but I think from growing up and being in the spaces that I've been in, I think the fact that that people get attached to things and identities helps you navigate the fact that you can't be attached to an identity. Like Daniel could only be attached to his faith.
So good.
He couldn't, this is my interpretation, obviously, of it, but I can't see that how he could be attached to the Babylonian identity. And because he was in exile, you're exiled from where you come from, from where everything should, I always say to myself sometimes that it's weird sometimes talking to my parents because I'm hearing what I should have sounded like my whole life. But I know for a fact I do not sound like that because I was raised in Model C schools, so I'm raised to speak the way I speak, which means I'll never speak the way my grandmother spoke. I'll never speak the way my aunts and uncles speak. It's just so some things as little as that separate you from an identity. So all you have is your faith and your skills and your capabilities, and you have to use them. Well, that's how I feel. You have to use them. And so navigating the differences in people then becomes a little bit easier because you realize that there's nothing for you to be attached to. Sometimes you find things and you get really excited about it. Like there's little things where I get so excited about. I'm like, Ghana was the first independent African country and I'm so proud of that. And then I'm like, but I don't live there. So what does that mean for me? How much can I attach myself to that, And, I can say I've grown up, in a country with one of the best constitutions and I get to practice. I got to work with the constitution directly. But how much does that attach to me? Wow. I don't get that. I don't get that extra key to attach myself. So I can only think of Daniel saying, okay, I don't get that key to attach myself. So let me look at this with objectivity.
Sure. I never looked at it like that.
No, that's the only way I can think of it.
Sure. How being exiled or moving to a different country strips you away of things like your identity, that you are left with.
You create your own.
I mean, you have the identity, but it's not where you can place your faith at. Because I think a lot of people do place their faith in their identity, right? I'm Xhosa, so this is who I am. This is what you can't really bring that. So the best that you can do is
do your best with what you have.
And then your faith.
And be objective. That's the only thing you have. I think faith has been a strong thing for me in life because I find so much solace in the fact that specifically the Christian faith, you are the oddball. Like you kind of, I remember where there was a verse not a verse, a preach that I listened to once, like a few years ago, that, Christianity is a peculiar faith and we serve a peculiar God, a God that comes to be with us and be in likeness with us, a God that faces rejection, where Jesus is like, he has no place to lay his head. And I'm like, sometimes I feel that like deep.
Just,
Yeah.
just
So
off topic. I think we forget that with immigrants, there's also a stripping away when they move into a new country.
yeah.
Like we don't keep in mind that there was a lot. It takes a lot to move from another country to another and say, this is who I'm going to be now. Imagining how it was like to grow up as a Hebrew Israelite and going into a nation that doesn't even believe in the same God that you do. How
And
that
serving it.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's an objectivity that you just have to apply that, I can't attach myself, but I can serve.
Sure. So good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amma. Thank you for that. Just a question about your role as an associate. How would you define that?
It's a fun role.
Okay.
It's challenging in a good way. Like I'm learning a lot in public law. It's sure, you're not a candidate anymore, so you're not doing. And because I did my articles in litigation, which is a lot different to what I'm doing now. Litigation, you get to be involved in like every small thing, involved in the matter as well. Where I was trained, a good candidate should know every single thing on the matter. So you should know where the papers are. You should know, what counsel is thinking on this. You are involved in every single step. And so now as an associate in a team that isn't, that it's different to litigation. It's, I want to say, a lot more deep thinking, applied work where you're sitting a lot and you're literally grappling with difficult, specialized concepts, and specialized regulatory instruments all the time. And it's not that we didn't do that in litigation. It's just in litigation is a lot more on you. We were on our feet a lot more. Whereas here it's you're just not on your feet as much. And so the role as an associate, I'm so used to just like go. And I'm like, okay, you can't do that here. So I think I'm still learning a lot in this role about how to do it in the best way possible. But yeah, just again, engage. Like there's still that element that you are sitting at the feet of the people who are training you and just, trying, sometimes not doing it. Sometimes, you're faltering, learning how to be a sponge. I think as an associate in any space, you are sitting as a sponge because anything from this, if there's a CLP that needs you, you kind of have to know enough to pass on. Okay. But at the same time, you're still learning. Yeah. So it's an interesting space to be in, a different feel. But it's good. It's good learning. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Let's get off the more intense questions to something lighter. Name one of your favorite books.
One of my favorite books, it's called Call Me Mommy, or My Name is Mommy. It's about this girl who grows up, again, Ghanaian immigrant parents, but she grows up in the UK. Yeah. And it's funny and it's very sad at the same time. Basically dealing with how she manages, her life changes. I don't want to give the plot away, but basically her life changes quite abruptly while her life changes very abruptly while her life is changing. That's the best way I can say it. While she's thinking of ways for her life to change. And it's interesting how she goes about integrating her life as being from the UK, with being the child of Ghanaian parents, and how that all plays out. And it's quite heartbreaking, very, very, very sad, but also so funny. There's some things that I just got and I laughed so hard. And I don't know if it's just because I got it and I understood it, or if it's just generally funny, but I loved it. Yeah.
We take book recommendations seriously. So
Okay.
I'm reading it.
Read it.
Definitely.
I like
I'm gonna
it.
go look for it.
I loved it.
And then I'm not sure if this is a mission statement in your life.
Okay.
But I saw something when I was busy stalking you online
Okay.
saying no boundaries.
Okay.
Is it?
It's not a mission statement. Thank you for stalking me online. I don't know where I said that, but I think it could be. I think I could apply it to myself. I think I should apply it to myself a little bit more. I think it's something that inadvertently or unconsciously I've applied to myself. Like, oh, well, why can't I do that? You know?
Actually, you have. I'm thinking of you
Yeah.
saying you are tenacious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it links so well.
It does. But consciously, I don't see myself saying, it's always like an unconscious thought, like, why not me? Why can't I do that? But I think it needs to be more of a conscious thing, and not, because as much as I can be tenacious, I can be quite fearful sometimes and let anxiety get the best of me. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you
Amma, for
very
joining
much.
me. Guys, this is Amma Sarfo-Adomah.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and share.
Thank you. Bye.
Yay.